one was one of the writers wrote about me, and the editor was like a new editor, and he's like, I'm going to put you in as one of like the top sexiest in Malaysia. And I had one aunt just had like this throwaway phone, and she just like vote all the time. So I got number one.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Chong and co-hosted by Yen Ling Low, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.
So dropping in all the way from KL into our virtual studio today is Sarah Lian.
It's not very far to drop in from actually, but yes, how can we not speak to Sarah?
Yep, she's an actress, she's an entrepreneur with a career that spans across Asia, North America for over 2 decades, right, Sarah? And she's so many things. I'll let Sarah introduce herself a little bit later because I'm sure I left out a couple of things that you do. You wear so many hats, Sarah. Nice to have you here on our show today.
Thanks for having me. On my Instagram, it says not your average one-trick pony. So it basically means I just don't do one thing.
So I guess the first question, as Yannick said, you are clearly very multi-talented. What other talents are you hiding from us?
I've had the privilege of being able to mix all the different things I like and slowly form them into, ideas, creative endeavors, and all of that. So I think most people will know me as a TV host, as an actress, a talent. I've also been running my company Suppagood, which is a boutique talent management company, and it's also a PR agency. I've been doing that for the past 10 years. And more recently, Supparetreat, which is sort of like a wellness platform thing that I take people on retreats.
And on top of all of that, I heard you speak like 5 languages.
Yeah, if you read my Wikipedia, that's what it says.
So is that true?
In actual fact, I've studied, I would say 4 or 5 languages, but I've actually only spoken English. Like, I've learned French when I was younger, and before I moved to Canada, I learned Malay, but now I know Malay through assimilation. My mother tongue is Hokkien. And I studied Mandarin and I studied Japanese, but I've never really used them to that extent. I think with Mandarin stuff, like, one-off project, they'll make me do that and I have to memorize like 3 lines, But that's pretty much it.
I'm just curious as well, right? I mean, you do so many things and you've been practically, I think, all over the world in that sense as well. Your career has taken you halfway across the world and back again. How did you start doing what you're doing right now?
The first time I was ever on stage was when I was living in Hong Kong. I was a snowball, and I believe I was 4 years old. My first competition was singing something like Folgers Coffee or something like that at a mall in Malaysia I think when I was like 8 years old. And then I got to win a tin, and then the whole family got to drink coffee from my, my boisterous personality. But really, I would say I started doing a lot of acting classes when I was maybe about 9-10 years old. And I did them because in Canada, you have a community, sort of like a course calendar for your community. So they'll let you know what's happening in this area or this high school. So you can learn Japanese cooking or baking on Thursdays. And so what I took was improv for kids. And from that, I learned a lot of improv stuff. So you're just playing games half the time, and then for a season, maybe you'll do like some sort of like play. So it was called the production company, and I did that for 5 seasons. And so after that, I had an agent, and then I started doing more acting stuff. It was totally on my own. It wasn't, my mom would have never thought to send me that. And even the auditions, I would go to the auditions myself, and everyone's there with their parents. And it's just me sitting in the room trying to like pretend like I love this doll or something,
Oh my goodness. So you really, since young, not only the passion to act, but it's also just, you're a self-starter. You've always just gone out and just did whatever you wanted and just chased it.
You did school in Canada, right? So I'm just wondering, like, if you found your old report cards, what would your teachers write about you?
Oh, like talkative. I always tell my staff that I'm the annoying student that would always just raise their hand up. Like I always had something to say. I always needed to answer a question.
So was that like your vibe as well when you went to college?
Actually, funny enough, it would be, I think my teachers, one of them called me a drinking bird. Do you know what a drinking bird is?
No, what's
Where
it?
they like, their head goes down all the time and they're drinking, right? Like a drinking
Uh-huh.
bird.
Oh, yeah.
So it's because I would be sleeping. I'm either talking, and if I'm not talking, I'm like sleeping. Like I'm not even awake during my class. Yeah. Yeah, I was sleeping through like college, university, high school. Yeah, I slept a lot
So,
in my
so
classes.
a talkative Sarah is a good thing because that means she's awake.
If I'm not eating or talking or writing something down, I'm most likely sleeping.
so I guess that makes you a night bird for sure.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
all your life.
Yeah, I'm up like late at night. It's embarrassing. It's sad.
But was it because you were also pursuing? I mean, this was more or less a side career during school as well, right?
Yeah. So when I did all this acting stuff, I did it just before I hit puberty. And it was all fun. And then when you get to puberty, you're like this awkward, you're like not quite a kid, but you're not quite an adult. So I paused for a little bit. I did some like church plays and all that. But I think the high school part is I had a part-time job. And then I was on the volleyball team, and then I was on student council. So I was just like that kind of person that was involved in so many different things and wanting to go out. And, at that time in Canada, the internet was starting to boom. People were starting to chat and all that. And so I had like this internet persona when I was 15. Yeah, when I was 15. So it was just like full on, like that was already the beginning of Sarah Lian.
Crazy. So what was your persona?
When I say persona, I just mean like my thing was called Lil Mui, Lilmui. So sometimes like in Canada, people refer to me as that, and that was sort of like a name that I had used. And we there was a site called Asian Avenue. And Asian Avenue was anyone that was ethnically Asian would be on that site. And so it was really popular in Canada and the States because then you'd connect with people that were of Asian heritage. You would like check down all the different like ethnicities you were or whatever it was. So it was good. Like I connected with a lot of people. I met a lot of people from that.
From there, you came back to Malaysia after college, and shortly after, I heard you became FHM Malaysia #1 most wanted woman on the top 100 list. I'm just going to date ourselves here because FHM is clearly out of print for a very long time. And so we have just established that we're all very, very old. but what was it like to be like right, I'm back and on like the #1 on the list of like so many people?
If I can be really honest now, since the magazine has gone out of circulation for multiple years, and since it's been more than 14, 15 years since I got #1, it was kind of a strategic move on my part, actually, to do that. I was very lucky. Somebody was like, hey, I want to do a feature because I was technically in American Pie. So I'd filmed the movie, but my scene was cut. And so because of that, people didn't see me. But you see my name, you see my name in the credits, which is great because I still get residual.
Yeah.
But,
Thanks.
it wasn't your part because you still get money from something that people don't see. What happened was one of the writers wrote about me, and the editor was like a new editor, and he's like, "Hey, I really like your story. I'm going to put you in as one of like the top sexiest in Malaysia." And so at that time, it was like if you SMS a vote, it would come in, and I had one aunt just had like this throwaway phone and she just like vote all the time. So I got #1 because no one still knew me. But I was thinking, oh, how am I going to get to where I want to go? I'm not going to do pageantry. I'm way too outspoken for that. And then, all these TV shows and stuff, like they don't know me yet. So he was like, keep voting. You're like almost #1. And I'm like, vote. So yeah, everybody was voting, and then I got it, and then that was kind of what I used to kind of propel my image and career. To if I can be honest, yeah. So
and of course that led then to you doing many things.
Yeah, I mean, I know that your audience is about freelancers, so it was just working as a freelancer ever since I graduated university. Aside from retail jobs, like I worked at Zara. I had to like fold clothes and sell, I was working as a cashier selling suits to men, right? It was definitely not what I thought I was going to do. I had always enjoyed it, And to be honest, it was just always easy. Because I worked at the mall, it was so easy to be like, hey, what brings you here today? Oh, are you checking out those jeans? Oh, can I get you that in a size, whatever? It was just so easy for me to do that. As a freelancer, what you end up finding is that there's nothing that really grounds you. So you can't take a loan, you can't buy a car, unless you have your parents' help and things like that. So I needed to turn that into a business. And so my company would pay me a salary, and it would all kind of funnel through the company. So when you ask me to host and be like, how are you feeling today? Oh, are you enjoying the show? These kind of things end up being so natural to me. So when I did it, it wasn't as like, oh my God, I'm like slaving away and I'm not getting any auditions. Like I kept on booking stuff. And my agent was like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, I don't know. It's working, right? And that's really how Suppagood started. But of course, it wouldn't just be self-serving. I would be able to use that and help other people or help manage other people. So Henry's a friend of mine. So Henry and I started around the same time. And both of us were trying to find a footing. And so even though both of our directions end up a little bit differently, because he ended up going to Singapore to do work, I was in Hong Kong, and then I went to Canada. We both were seen as a meteoric rise. A lot of people would be like, out of nowhere, then there's this Sarah Lian or there's Henry or whatever it was. And so it was because both of us were just so intentional about it. And so when I did that, I thought, okay, I'm sure there's other people out there that are looking to carve a certain type of career. And if I can help them, or if I can see a gap, or I can see how I can help them and propel them forward, of course, taking a cut, then I'm going to do it. So that's kind of what I did. So that's how Suppagood came in. I'd been doing some programs in Canada, and I wanted to still keep up with my press in Malaysia. So I hired a publicist. And then she says, hey, I'm also thinking of doing my own thing. Why don't we do it together? And so Suppagood PR came about. And now we have, we're a full-fledged PR agency, and, we've got really great clients from hospitality to schools, that kind of thing. And then you meet people and they're like, hey, I got another project, let's work on something. I'm like, sure. So it kind of happened that way. I think what I thought I would be doing would be working in a department store, managing a brand.
Really?
That's totally what I thought, because I studied fashion, right? I studied business of fashion. So that's why I thought I have a Bachelor of Design. So I'm a designer at one part too. So it's that's not where I thought I was going to head. I thought I was going to be in some fashion business running, maybe a creative side of things, but not necessarily sewing and pattern making and any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was totally not headed in that direction at all.
Speaking of Suppagood, here's a super good thing. Sponsorship and collaboration opportunities are available with the Onku podcast. We are super excited and we'd love to tell you about it. So drop us an email at contact@creatives@work.asia to find out more.
It seems like every country you've been to, you went to Canada, you're an immigrant freelancing. And then when you came back to Malaysia, you're back in Malaysia, but you're considered a Canadian girl, came back to freelance. So again, you're an immigrant freelancing. So what advice actually would you give to, let's say, freelancers who, let's say from Singapore, who thought that maybe I want to go and try the Malaysian industry as a freelancer or something along that lines?
I think it's actually just knowing your audience, no matter where you're at, right? So I think when I'm in Canada, it's knowing what's out there and how I can be of service. That's probably the most important thing. You could try to sell your services, but if nobody actually wants it, then you can't, right? You need to know your audience, you need to know the market. And so for me, it's in Canada, what could I do? So before I was part of the union, I would take just random jobs. I would be like, oh yeah, you want a talent? I'll shoot in your telco print ad, right? Or I'll be this fake host for your gimmick show. I did it, or whatever it was. You have a short film? Sure, I'm going to shoot that as well. Whatever would keep me busy. And that would help grow my network. Not that it wasn't based on money, but when it didn't really matter so much, right? So I think for me, when I was in Canada, I was a student, but I'd grown my network in Vancouver in the film industry, and then Toronto. And so now when my friends have clearly moved around or some have hit success, some have left, you have this huge network. And so I think for me, it was just understanding the audience, right? Growing your network. Those two things I would say are huge, right? You never know where it's going to end up. And for me, it was even in Malaysia, I interned here in my university days. So I interned at a TV station, and now my ex-boss is now my business partner, right? And he was heading up the creative for the like 4 television stations and like 2 radio stations, right? So it ended up working out. And then because of our network, then we start adding on value to everything that we do. So sometimes when I think of a freelancer, it feels like, oh my God, it's only me out there. But if you really think about it, you are a consultant, right? You are a consultant for your own services, and you are able to channel what you want to do with the things you want to do. You're not stuck at a job saying, oh my God, I don't do paperwork, right? Like, oh no, I'm the ideas guy. All I do is just come up with ideas, or I'm the illustrator, or I'm this portion of the machine. And you're a consultant. You have to look at it that way, and you have to see where the market is, where the business is. So if somebody's from Singapore and they want to come to Malaysia, what's available, right? Because in Singapore, if I think about maybe the entertainment market, let's say, the Chinese market is like huge, right? Your Malay market's like so tiny. But for us, the Malay market's like, oh my God, you're on TV3. And I'm like, huh? But yeah, it's like the creme de la creme, right? That's why Aaron Aziz has come over to Malaysia and has such a beautiful career, because there's just so much of it, right? You just have to know your market.
I'm talking from a freelancer's point of view, right? If someone is listening to this right now and really wants to work with you as a freelancer, how would you advise them to approach you? Or, what are you looking for if you're looking
First of
for
all,
someone
not
new
looking
to?
for a freelancer, but but if I was, how would I be working with like, you mean a freelancer? Like, let's say I'm going to hire them for, I don't know, some sort of shoot or something. Yeah, I would like to see their work, right? Your portfolio is the first thing that people are going to see, right? If you are a creative freelancer, I'm assuming that's what it is. So, if you're an actor, actress, I don't care if you've been on, whatever TV or not. Have you done short films? Cut a snippet. Let us see how you emote. Let us see how you react to things, right? I want to see range. If you're a director, I want to see your eye. I want to see how you put things together. I want to see your editing. If you are a photographer, I want to see why you tell these stories the way you tell your stories, right? The whole idea of storytelling is so important, because that's how it allows us to connect with someone. If I tell you, the Palestinians, once again, the Gaza Strip have been, 13 women died. Like, you're like, oh, that sucks. If I tell you the story of one of the 13 women, and I tell you about what she has done with her life, you're going to be like, oh, And that's the power of storytelling. So I'm not telling that every freelancer should tell me their story, but I'm saying that when we have the opportunity, you get on Behance, you get on Instagram, you get on whatever cult creative in Malaysia is like huge right now. You show people what you do. Someone's going to find you. There was this, I'll give you an example. There was this girl, I forgot her name. I think it's like some Chinese name, but she creates these miniature things. So she'll create like little
I
shop
love those.
house,
Yeah.
right? And she's just like, you just see her do it. Yeah, she works with like Ryan Reynolds, and then my business partner has a production house, and he's like, oh yeah, we're hiring her for this one job. Like, who knew someone creating these miniature like toys or whatever, like
Little
scenes,
tables and little shells.
like in a like kopitiam, and then she has like a little like egg, and then she's like frying whatever
Yeah.
it is. Who would think to hire someone like that? But when you are so in line and so ingrained in what you do, and you tell this story of how you got started, people are going to resonate with that. And that is your moneymaker. That is your star. Like, that is you are the star. If you're going to try to be, I'm trying to be like this actor or this director or whatever, you're always going to be number 2. Okay? So this is why I don't worry about competition. Of course, I'm like, oh, she's so pretty, or oh, she's so, I have my insecurities, but I'm not worried about competing with someone, because I know what I have. And if someone is trying to steal or create a career out of me, I'm like, hey, I brought the torch this far. Feel free to take it further. This is how we look at it. You got to look at it as a collective. You can't look at it as like, oh, why you take my torch? You know what I mean? You have to look like, I did this. I created my career. I built all of this so that someone one day can say, I studied exactly what you did, and now I'm going to go even further. Go. Run.
Yeah, like take it, run with it, right?
Yeah, I'll take it. I feel like I'm part of your journey then too. Thanks. I didn't even know I was part of your journey.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. You're basically pivoting to using your strengths. As a freelancer, I think a lot of a lot of, even for myself, I find myself stuck in that rut sometimes where I feel like I should focus. So many people talk about doing one thing and doing it very well, but you reminded us just that it's that beauty of freelancing where you have that freedom to move however you want to, and just go with the flow. And sometimes that's a good thing, where it can take you to bigger places as well. And speaking of bigger places, I really want to find out more about this super retreat that you mentioned, right? Which is, tell us more about it. It's woman empowerment, it's a self-love, go out there and enjoy yourself and show your beauty. What is it all about?
Maybe let me ask you, what were you drawn to when you first read about it or heard about it?
When
What
I
connected?
first heard about it, I think it's that woman self-love, self-empowerment part of it. I did read about it very briefly, but that's what I'm hearing about a lot nowadays, and how a woman can love oneself. And I think it's also, to me, it's interesting because I don't know whether you see it that way, but at least from the outside looking in, as a celebrity and a personality, it's to a certain level about looks. And that, when it comes to a woman and her looks, that's usually the thing that causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-doubt to happen. And for you, as someone who has that as one of a major factor in your career, please correct me if I'm wrong, right? It's just very curious to me, because I feel if anyone would have faced the most doubt, it would be someone like you, because you're in the spotlight all the time. You are judged on your looks all the time. You're judged on who you are, and that's where I'm curious about. How it then led to going to self-love and then having a whole retreat. And I don't know what happens in a retreat. I haven't seen the program, but I saw the raving reviews about it as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think we're all going to resonate to different types of things. And, of course, being in the entertainment industry is a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of preconceived notions when people meet you that your life must be like this. And what I will always realize is that they're just projections of what their life would be if they were in your shoes. You know what I mean? And what they can handle, what they can't handle. And so that's what you pick up on, right? And we all just pick up on different types of things. So Supparetreat it really started out as a company retreat because my company's called Suppagood. So it was a retreat, nothing brilliant, nothing creative, just let's call it Supparetreat. And we just thought, what would it be like if we took other people on this retreat? What would it look like if people had a chance to reset and renew and feel refreshed, right? And then we thought maybe there might be an opportunity to maybe think about, who are these people that want to go on the retreat? What do they need? What kind of journey have they been on? What kind of journey can we take them on? How can they feel after they leave our retreat, right? So Supparetreat was really about how do we create this safe space where people can actually feel safe enough to feel, right? It was like, how can they feel connected to themselves? Because at the end of the day, we all know who we are. But when you start layering all the different expectations and pressures and then cultural stuff and then conditioning, it's like you kind of lose who you are because you're just operating in this being that is doing everything for everyone, right? Your role as a father, your role as a girlfriend, your role as an employee, freelancer, what have you. So I think when you keep on playing these roles, you kind of lose a sense of who you are. And we're just here to sort of ask you the right questions, right? Because we believe that everyone's light is in them. We believe that the light is there. And so my little, tagline is ignite the fire within, is because there is something in there and I'm here to help you ignite it. Because the moment that fire is lit, like, you are going to be able to see it in other people, right? We always say hurt people hurt other people. Well, heal people heal people. We can recognize that in other people, and it's like you don't keep it for yourself. It's like this light that is like beaming and this fire that is like smoking, like you start affecting all the people that you meet, your closest friends, your partners, your all the kind of relationships, your family, your work, your communities. And that's what I want to do, right? I want people to feel empowered, right? And so we always say, oh, female empowerment, so good, but it's like, what does that actually mean? Is that you actually feel that you have the power to do something. And so when it comes to self-love, for me, it's been such a beautiful journey because I got out of a toxic relationship, what I deemed as toxic. I realized that, oh my God, I'm just the kind of person that just wants to like love everyone and like give all my love to other people. And then, and wait for them to give it back to me. But what happens is that you just have to wait for other people. Like you're on at the beck and call, right? And so when you are able to create the love that you're seeking from yourself, you don't really need another person. Of course, we want connection, partnership. I'm not saying like, be a lonely monk, right? But cultivating that self-love, that deep self-love, allows you to negate all these other things that exist, but at the same time, you're able to really just hone in on, what you believe in, what you love, and just stay true to that, right? And that's alignment, So I've been doing a lot of these workshops on different aspects of self-love, self-trust, self-honesty, self-compassion, self-expression, self-pleasure. There's just so many different topics under self-love that we can explore, and a lot of it is just a way to just question, and get deeper to ourselves.
Hey, and I forgot to tell you guys about the Goddess and the Warrior Retreat presented by Supparetreat. It is an inclusive and integrative 3-day, 2-night retreat for both men and women, singles or couples, to embark on a healing journey with the theme of leading and loving. This wellness retreat is a holistic approach to the body, mind, and soul, focusing on the individual and the transformation that happens from within. This weekend getaway takes place from the 25th to the 27th of November at the Huton Retreat, Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. This sounds pretty cool to me, and if it does sound cool to you too, find out more or sign up at supparetreat.com. That's supparetreat.com. First off, your retreat, your company retreat, must have been amazing. And I think it is entirely different from what other companies' retreats must have been. When you say company retreat, right? I've been on, I haven't been in a lot of companies where they practice company retreats as well, right?
No,
I've been
but
freelancer
you're
for most of the time.
freelancers. Yeah, there's a downside of freelancing.
Yeah.
You don't get to go anywhere.
No retreat.
But the once or twice that I've been, the retreat is basically, it's a work meeting somewhere that's not in Singapore. That's it, right? That's a reason for you to have meetings 3 days straight, basically.
They're like, oh, they just paid for us to wear regular clothes, but still go on the meetings.
Yeah, at the poolside, by the way. Thanks.
Oh, you're at the pool. Yeah.
But I have to say as well, listening to whatever you just said, Sarah, it sounds like there's a lot of a lot of behavior, mental health, self love kind of things to touch on. But these are actually soft skills that's very hard to teach. Even to really, really smart people, it's really, really very hard to teach. So how do you go about teaching that? And
you feel
imparting
through
that?
it. You feel through it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's very visceral, you don't, it's not like, oh, so I do step 1, step 2, and then step 3, then this is what I get. No, that doesn't mean that.
Sorry.
So
your accent just came out and I was like a bit shocked. Like, who's it?
That's my I don't know what I'm doing, so you have like a local accent for that. But no, I think it's, you really feel through it. You feel through it. Like the guys and the women, the men and the women that come to my events, they're in like a really bad place, right? Sometimes it's something that will snap you out of that autopilot zone, right? So it's like a death, some sort of grief, some sort of breakup. Maybe you left your job, some sort of change that you're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like a lot of women that come, maybe they're like new mothers and they're just like, I thought I wanted this and now I just want sleep, And so, yeah, it just kind of like rocks them to the core and they're just kind of like, hold on a second. Why have I been feeling, this is everything I wanted, but why do I feel so empty? Like, what there? I thought I wanted this, right? That's why we have so many of these child stars or like super, like people that shoot to superstardom and they can't actually just gather who they are. Like they kind of get lost in it or they get caught up and then they, you find out they're in some rehab facility, right? So you feel through it. You feel through it, you connect with yourself and you start learning, right? You start learning about yourself because honestly speaking, you go to a teacher cannot teach you about your life. Only you will know your life. So a lot of this stuff is you are the cause and you are the cure, But unless you're willing to be open to the uncomfortable feeling of maybe saying like, oh, Sarah, you are like a gold digger. No, I'm not. How dare you call me a gold digger? See, but maybe I am, but why am I so angry that someone has said that, right? Like maybe there's something there, So maybe there's something within your shadow that you don't want people to see and that you've been trying to hide. So a lot of this stuff, when I say feel through it, sometimes it sounds woo-woo. It's not even. It's actually just having a conversation, just having a space to just say, actually, I've been really scared of acknowledging that I'm actually this kind of person, or I'm led by fear. I do all these things because I'm so worried I'm not going to have enough money. I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. I'm not going to be able to do this. Or I'm doing freelancing because I'm and I need to succeed because I need to show my mom, or else she's going to make me go do that law school, or I will have to sit at the dinner table having to explain for the rest of my life that why I want to do what I want to do. But I do this because it feels good. And how can I stand up to that? How can I have my voice out? But some people aren't even in that stage to be able to say that, right? And so it's like you feel through this stuff. It's everything is connected, when people really work through a lot of pain, a lot of like deep healing work, they'll notice, oh my God, my back is like not painful anymore. I used to have this like weird back thing. It happens all the time. And I'm not saying I do anything, we just honestly facilitate the space so that whoever comes does not feel attacked because we're asking everyone. The fact that you feel attacked means there's something there, right? So Ling, if I say, oh, Ling, you are this, you've got blue hair and you've got, brown skin and you're like, no, I'm not. It doesn't bother you, right? But if I say something else and it does, you got to ask yourself, actually, why does that bother me if that's not who I am?
Like, why should I care?
Yeah,
right?
so you start to be more sensitive, and I don't mean sensitive like crying at everything, but like start to be more sensitive, like
Aware.
actually what is the awareness comes up. Like what is actually coming up here? Like why am I feeling resentful? Why am I actually kind of like, why did she say that? Is it because I wanted to say something and she said it, but I felt like I couldn't? Is that where the resentfulness is coming from? Or because she's saying something that I believe is untrue and unfair, So you start to really ask these questions and you start to create this space. And through that, it's like the observation. You're like, oh my goodness, this is what it is. So for me, maybe it was like dating patterns or the way I treat people or why I feel like, oh, I need to be nice to everyone. Is it because I'm actually genuinely nice or am I people pleasing? I want them to like me, right? So it's like all these kind of things that you go through that you learn in different ways and you come out feeling a little bit more confident in anything that you do.
So it's just really addressing a lot of issues that, I think some people might even know some of the issues, but they've just never
Already
faced
know.
it head on. Yeah.
It's also knowing what's valuable to you, I guess, and knowing yourself what's valuable to you. And I think if we go what's valuable, we all know, family, friends, that's valuable. Being loved by those who want to love you, that's valuable. Happiness, that's absolutely invaluable, at least to me. We need to also know when we're taking risks to harm these things. I think that's very valuable as well, and when to stop. But that one is actually the challenge, right? When do we stop taking risks to harm all these things? That's that's going to risk all these valuable things to us. And basically, the whole idea of knowing when we have enough. When actually do we have enough? Here, what's your take on that, sir? Like when does someone actually have enough to none in their
When you're living in abundance. When we're talking about thinking about psychology of money, I always really just think about the abundance and the scarcity mindset. There's just two different ways of looking at things, and it's got nothing to do with the actual numbers that you have. It's the feeling, like you said, Sean, feeling of having enough. And to me, I grew up in a household where we have not enough money, not enough time. Oh, we have not enough this, not enough that. Like, I just grew up with that. And so I'm just like, no, we need to save. Oh, we cannot spend money. Like, So you're just Scrooging because you feel like you don't have enough. So even if my mom has X amount of money in her bank account, and she does, no, cannot, just in case like she will still get into that mode where she doesn't have enough. But for me, I focused on a couple things this year. One was abundance and one was detachment, right? So the abundance factor was really just seeing that everything I want is within reach. Everything I believe is actually within reach. It's just a matter of how it's going to come to me and where it's going to come to me. But to me, abundance is everywhere. So if I'm in a spirit of giving, I feel like that matches a certain vibration that allows more things to come into my life. And I have seen it. I've seen my company expand, and we're only in not even hitting September yet, and we're already like 80-90% of our target, and we haven't even hit, and so I realized it was from my expansion that allowed a lot of my talents to start growing, because I was like, oh, no, not enough money. We shouldn't do this, or we should be more like this. And I'm not saying I'm being, reckless, but I'm looking at it like, no, this is actually an investment. This is going to make us more money. I'm not even going to question this. It's just a matter of like what fits within our budget, right? And so are you enough? It's like, if you feel like you're not enough, then you will always be chasing that not enoughness. And that's the kind of energy that you keep bringing. But if you feel like everything is already there, and I can't even imagine what else is coming into my life, wow. Like, it just keeps, I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this person to pay me that much. It's like, oh my gosh, this is great. Everything is a freaking blessing. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel about things right now. And I think when you come from a place of lack, that's really what we're working with, right? You're coming from not enough, not enough this, not enough that, it's like it's not quite there. And so you always feel like you're less than. And here I'm trying to say, start looking at you're already full. You're already full. And that anything that comes in is always just like bonus and amazing. And when you start vibrating at that level, that's what you're going to keep attracting. And so when you're like, like down and out, and you're comparing yourself, you're a freelancer, you're like, oh, how come she got all the jobs? I don't know why she's no. Don't look at what you don't have. Look at what you have. That's abundance. I have the privilege of doing what I want and not being stuck in an office with other people that I don't want to talk to because I don't like working with anyone else. That is, you got to start looking at that. You got to start thinking, oh, what can I offer? Oh my God, I offer advice all the time. That is abundance. Abundance doesn't have to be money. It can be advice. It can be gifts, right? The fact that I get to my birthday, I wanted to celebrate with this sort of like a refugee daycare school kind of thing. And I said, I just wanted to celebrate my birthday with a bunch of kids. Bought them four different flavored cakes, got them all chicken, Korean fried chicken. And I was like, let's eat. That to me is abundance. Like, I get to share my birthday with them. And I'm not saying it has to be a gesture where you have to give money all the time. Even knowing like, hey, I've got, you know what's a good abundance gift? Writing people's LinkedIn recommendations. That's a gift. Imagine you go on LinkedIn and you're like, she's the best person I've ever worked on, like ever worked with or whatever. That is a gift. That is abundance, right? That is you giving. That is you giving in your spirit the way you want to. That is abundance. And so when you're worried about, I don't have enough, look at what you have. And then think about, how am I going to amplify this? How are people going to know who I am, what I do, what my skill set is? I'm going to continue giving. I'm going to continue showing up, porting the industry that I'm in any way, shape, or form. And people are going to feel that, That's how you start.
I guess that sums up Sarah Lian's psychology of money as well. But from a business point of view, though, I mean, if you were to put on the cap of a business, an entrepreneur, that having done with all the businesses that you do, we're curious to know then, does that psychology of money change for you?
Oh, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
So you run the business the same way?
I run the business in the same way that, listen, I'm in my lane. I know what I can offer and I know what I can do for you. If you are looking for something with a lower rate and a cheaper thing, by all means, here are some companies that I think you should work with, and they're amazing, right? If I was working as an individual like Sarah Lian trying to sell her MC services or whatever, I'd be like, if it didn't work with me or didn't align with me, I'd be like, here are some other MCs. They are equally as amazing, if not better. I think she would actually be better fit. Go for it. What does that take off me? What does that mean? It means that I care about the people I work with, my colleagues, my esteemed, peers. It shows that I am not scared or worried or competitive about my business because I already know what I can do. If you want to work with me, you want to work with someone that's transparent, someone that is professional, someone that will work with you in the right manner. Yeah, let's talk. If you just want to like chop up kind of job, go for it. Go with someone else, and that's totally fine. I mean, that's your decision. I'm not here to take anything personal.
Yeah, it's not just about personal. It's not just about I guess how you look at it, right? The client, there are all kinds of clients, and there are also all kinds of service providers. If someone wants to come to you and they only have X amount of budget, and it's like, okay, maybe it's not for me. Like what you said, you might want to consider some other, some other colleagues out there or some other peers out there. But it's not. I think the attitude where in facing such a situation as well. It's not about being bitter about like how come my clients all come to me with such low budgets or like how come all these kind of attitudes. But it is really about, like what you say, it's just not for me because I know what I have to offer and perhaps we're not a right fit at this point of time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just, it really is communicating, right? And, before I take a client on, it's like having a chat to make sure that we are aligned. It's like, actually, this is kind of how we work with. We do this, we do that. We also have boundaries in terms of you can't contact me at this time or whatever and just think I'm going to do it, right? I mean, you have very clear communication channels that go both ways. And then you say, is this a right fit for me, a right fit for you? And if it's not, I'm willing to wait around. Luckily, I'm in this stage in my life. I understand that if you're desperate, you're like, I'm just going to take whatever job. I don't care if it's not aligned.
Yeah. That's right. Like, just give
that's
me
fine.
the money
That is
first.
also alignment because that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
But once you get to a different stage and you're like, actually, I can wait a bit. I can wait for the right guy, or I can start doing things so that the right guy is going to come, like not right guy, but like right company or right client is going to be attracted to me. So when I first started the business, it was like, oh, how do we go out there to message these companies to let them know about our services, right? Like how do I do that and trying to get my staff to make sure you send them out and all of that. And now I don't do anything. Like, I mean, I do things, but it's like
But they come to you.
They start coming because what have we done? We've created brands that are so transcendent that are across platforms, across mediums, and people are like, no, we heard what you do. We believe in what you do. And it's like, yeah, this is our hard work. We create it so that what we do is seen in a way that is going to start attracting brands. So even if I'm like, yeah, it's fine, we don't need to do this anymore, another brand will come in and, hi, yeah, actually we'll pay you that much. Like,
yeah,
great.
Right.
That's right.
It'll happen.
And on the note of alignment, I think you've clearly aligned yourself, your business, since you said you got hit 90% already by September. You've aligned yourself in this new normal after the drama the last 2 years. I think you went, clearly events and retreats are going to be very badly hit, and yet you pulled it through, right? So how did you actually manage to pivot to that, given the nature of, how badly hit? I'm sure it was very badly hit in Malaysia
over
as well.
the past 2 years,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So how do you survive?
Thankfully, our Malaysian government, surprisingly, was able to pull in wage subsidies, so that really helped me. Freelancers, I feel so, my heart goes out to them. At some point you're selling cakes, and at some point I can't buy everybody's cake. 2020 was a little bit tough. I was really, 2019, I already started to shave my team and start to shave my roster down, like to pare it down. Something was more manageable. Who would have foreseen this global pandemic that would hit in 2020? So 2020, my revenue was quite low. But as I mentioned earlier, because I had built transcendent brands, like, I represent 3 other talents. And so one's in sustainability, one's fitness, and one's parenting, essentially. And we just found a way that allowed people to connect with them more. Like my sustainability girl, she did like 10 talks on sustainability on Zoom. You know what I mean? Like she ended up being so hot that like 2021, it was like, wow, who knew this was going to be our best year ever for everyone? It was like everyone's best year. It was like, how did we manage this while we're in the second year of the pandemic, you know? And it's really building brands based on like your values, right? Like we know who we are, we know what we will do, we know what we won't do. And so the more we start championing the things we love and people starting to see that come through, the easier it was for brands to say, hey, actually, I want to work with you. Or I really like how you look at this. I really want to partner with you. How can we do this, right? So with my parenting person, Rachel, love her so much. Her Instagram, I think, is not even 10,000. Okay, it's not even very high, right? But we were working with Love Bonito. We were working with Lazada. We were working with Lego. We're working with Barbie. I mean, these are huge brands, but because they see the way she does it, and they're like, we want to be a part of this. So it's not even about the numbers anymore, right? So that we were able to transcend all of these quantitative facts that we use ourselves to define who we are and what our brands are, but we allowed the value and the truth of and the alignment of each person or each brand to come through, and that's what people wanted to participate with. We're done, right? You can buy numbers. I can buy, 100,000 and then be like, oh, Sarah's got 100,000 followers. I can buy that. It's fine. Like we could do that. If you want numbers, sure, I'll get numbers. But when you follow me, or I mean, with social media, you get to know who I am. You get to know my sense of humor. You get to know how I like looking good and how I don't look good all the time. And it's like, that's who I am and that's my brand, right? And it's like, if you want someone that's, highly curated, you're going to go somewhere else. So I think it was just creating these brands that were so solid that like, yeah, we're going to dump X amount, few more thousand, 5 figures on you just to like do this campaign. Great. Let's do it.
No, I keep telling people when it comes to storytelling, of course, because everybody knows 1 + 1 = 2, right? That's a fact, and that's very reasonable. But when I tell you that 1 + 1 = 3, that is where the story really is, right? Because everyone really wants to know, because the sum of the whole is always greater than the parts. And that's really the kind of, and so I always like to, well, as a storyteller, I like to find where's the 3 in the story, because everybody knows 1 + 1 = 2. There's no arguments there, but then why am I telling you that then? That was the point. So, and of course, everything you just said, I'm also very curious to know as well, because your Supparetreat in particular, how, if you can't do any retreats, how do you survive the last 2 years?
Oh my God. 2020, I did 75 workshops online.
75.
That's one every 4 days. If you were to break it up to 3, if you break it up to weekday. Okay, how do you do that?
We did it from like, obviously from March to maybe like early December.
Wow.
Yeah. And some days I would have 2 a day. And because it's just me, and I was like, okay, the cost is this Zoom account, right? This license every month, but I'm Supparetreat, so I need to be there. So I was there at every single one. The only one I wasn't was because I was emceeing another event that, when things started.
But how do you retreat in a Zoom room with a virtual camera?
It's the space, it's the container, it is how people feel, not where they're at, not physically where they're at. When you feel safe enough to be able to share, when you see someone that is like, if I suddenly just start crying, it's going to totally change the tone of this conversation. And when people emote, and you can feel people's energy. I can feel all of you guys' energy. I don't need to like touch any energy, but when you can feel how hard it was for that person to even acknowledge that part of themselves, you look at them in reverence. It is you are in awe. So when we create these safe spaces, and everything that we do is really an invitation. It is really for you to like, am I willing to push myself a little bit more? And so when we do that, oh my God, it's amazing, right? And so even if it was online, people just felt so connected because you felt so disconnected with the world. You're like at home all the time, or your husband or your wife, and then it's like everything. You're like, I just need a little corner, right? So you come check in with us for 2 hours, and maybe it's like a breath work exercise, and someone's going to teach you and explain to you all the different levels of breath work, and for you to like channel this kind of stuff. Everything I do is to empower you, is to equip you to be more you. I'm not here to bring coaches so that you'd be like, wow, this is an amazing coach, I want to be with this coach all the time. No, we're not creating any idolatry in this, it's really so that you can be the best version of you. And it's not a cliche term. I think people go through so much stuff, people going through divorces, breakups, all this kind of stuff, company change. This one girl said, because of your online courses, she's like, I totally turned I realized I didn't want to do that. And now she builds this amazing startup. She's getting funding. She's got all these connections with all these creative schools. It's
Wow.
phenomenal. And she's like, Sarah, that was from you. I was like, it's not from me. Okay, that's from you.
So
But
so she took your torch. Yeah.
yeah. But it wasn't even, I mean, of course the coach was there, but all my coaches are there to facilitate your experience. We facilitate this experience, but you are guiding yourself. And the more you're willing to open up yourself to say what could be, what's been holding me back, that's when you start to really move, because you're like, I didn't realize that was what I've been upset about the whole time, And you start to move. That's what happened.
And was this the point as well where, because Super Retreat used to be women-only retreats, so was this the point whereby you opened it up to men as well? Because you mentioned that there are men coming and so on. So because it's virtual, it opened up to men. So how does this business work actually? I mean, now that you open it up to men as well, does it work the same way or different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or in what way?
I mean, I think with women, it was just really harping on sisterhood, because I think with the male patriarchy, the patriarchy systems that keep us competitive and combative and all this kind of stuff, there can only be one woman in the top. That stuff is all let's not even get there. So it was really about the power of sisterhood, that you would be with another woman and know that understanding, or have that sense of trust and love, right? Because when a man comes in, it's suddenly the energy is a little bit different. But I think whatever we're trying to teach is actually universal. And what I've realized, and I hope it's not really a surprise, is that society has encouraged men not to emote, right? We always say, you're a boy, don't cry, right? I mean, if you've ever, Sean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's something
Ever
you've
been
ever
said
heard,
to you?
right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, don't cry, boys are supposed to cry. And then suddenly as men, you realize, actually, there's not much emotional range that I have. I'm just angry or sad or silent. And it's exploring all of these things, but because men or boys have been stunted from that, and that's something you're like, okay, yep, no, I'm not supposed to feel it. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I don't know what you're doing. Oh, you're crying? Okay, I'm just gonna stand here. That's what happens, right? That happens with a lot of guys. I mean, I hope I'm not.
No. I can totally imagine what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah,
It is.
images actually flash through my head.
Yeah, the
People
images.
actually flash through my head.
Right? We've experienced that. And you know what? Why are we upset at men for not being able to emote when we've told them from the beginning that they can't cry? And I'm not saying crying is the worst thing, but it's the suppression of your emotion that is the most difficult thing. And then you get used to it. And then that's all you know. And so when it comes up, and when you are confronted with that from a relational perspective, you're like, I don't know what to do. Okay. You don't know what to do. And then whatever, your partner is probably like, oh my God, I'm crying. Why are you not saying all this kind of stuff, right? All right. Does it sound familiar?
It
Sean,
sounds familiar. It sounds like, so now it sounds like, yeah. I mean, I want to turn off my camera now, because it's like you said, the energy is different when it's a guy who.
Are we getting doomed?
No, but get the image in my head. I can totally imagine that. And so now the events are back. It's no longer virtual. You're going to start having men in the events as well. And I can so imagine.
Now change topic.
Well,
yes, back to men in events. Yes, men will be invited to my events.
no, I'm sure it's a bunch of so it's like men coming to events, and then you're getting coached. It's like getting coached about all these things. It's like the word that comes to my mind is like reverse mansplaining, like it's like reverse mansplaining or something.
It's
it's
not at all. It's not
but
at
actually,
all.
what is your take actually on on that actually?
Mansplaining?
Yeah, like totally. I think it became such a big thing, right, in the last few years, and along with the Me Too movements and so on. And what are your takes on all these? How it's evolved into that?
What was it? Who is the Jewish actor that used to be really fat and then lost a lot of weight? He was in Don't Look Up. He was in with Wolf of Wall Street. What's his name? he's not Seth Rogen, but like the younger guy, but he's like the Jewish. He's like a fat kid. He was in.
Okay, who was in Wolf of Wall Street? Matthew McConaughey was in Wolf of Wall Street, but I don't think he's Jewish. Jonah
No.
Hill.
Jonah Hill. So Jonah Hill, like, lost a lot of weight, and he wrote on his Instagram, like, I'm just taking a break because I really can't stand how media even talks about my size. And then we're all like, women have been facing that for like ever since. Like, welcome to the conversation. But suddenly his statement was like profound, and it was like put on, Hollywood Reporter, and we're just like, and women don't get that on a daily basis. Like, suddenly you've lost weight and now you have all this attention and you don't like it. Well, listen, this is what it is. So mansplaining feels like you're saying the exact same thing, but suddenly now people are going to listen to you because you're a guy. That's what mansplaining is to me. And it's annoying because then you're like, let me, like, once the guy gives the idea, oh yeah, it's a great idea, right? I mean, that's generally what it is. I don't know if I've experienced that. Maybe my ex-boyfriend was a really big, like, mansplainer. Maybe that was the reason why he's my ex. But yeah, I think when it comes to the Super Retreat and just knowing what we do, it is universal. Like, I don't feel that a woman should be more entitled to it than a man. I just think that more women are more likely to join these kind of things and feel not judged for it than men. Because men are like, oh, what are you going to do that? You're going to go there and cry? And then what? And it's just like, well, I'm just going to get in touch with my feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's you're like, all right, what else do you want to do? Because truth be told, like, a lot of guys, when they hang out, of course, I mean, there's obviously exceptions, and I'm not here to speak on behalf of men, but you're going through something, your best friend says, let's go grab a beer. You go grab a beer. They try to talk to you about something that's not related to get your mind off it. And then you go back home, and then you're still in that mess, and you have nowhere to go. And then you just continue this, and then it like was never solved. Okay. Going out for beers with guys was never solved. Okay. Maybe you go to a KTV bar, or maybe you go, get something going on there, but it hasn't changed anything. You haven't transmuted that pain into anything. You've just kind of like, okay, let's go there. Oh, new shiny object. Sure, let's work with that.
Yeah.
Right?
I know exactly what you mean.
Right? So this work is really just like opening it up to like, okay. And so when it comes back again, it's not a repeat. It's not a repeat of this pattern. You're like, oh, I recognize this. Oh, wow, this is oddly familiar. But now that I am in this other place in my life, I can decide to go this other route. That's what we do. And it's not just about relationships. It's about the way we relate to anything, and especially to ourselves, right? The kindness that you want to throw to yourself, the compassion that you want to throw to yourself.
How you do anything is how you do everything, right? And it seeps into every facet of your life. That one thing that just might be bothering you, and you might not even know it as well, right? Yeah, I just love how you're sharing how, and this is not only for the retreat, mind you. The retreat, you have said it went from a company retreat to something like a sisterhood retreat, and now it's just universal altogether. And I think that is, again, not only just for the retreat, it's for your whole life and your whole career as well.
Yeah.
It seems that it has been all the way from 4 years old when you first was a snowball to what
What's
you
the motivation
are right
of a snowball?
I don't know. All I know is
What's the
I'm on this thing,
Nico.
and I've got this like little outfit, and I run across, or I'm dancing. I don't know. It's like that was my first performance in Hong Kong.
It's so amazing that the growth that you have just shared with us, and it's what you're sharing is not just what you can go through, it's what I can go through, it's what Sean can go through, it's what anybody can go through if they want to. So we do have this one question which we ask all of our guests, right? If there were any one time where you felt uncool, right, the most uncool you ever were, what would you say to yourself back then?
If I was really uncool, oh, you'll grow out of it. You're the coolest person ever.
When were you most uncool, actually? Like folding jeans at Sala or something?
I was pretty cool then too.
Oh. So you're always cool.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. I would say I think that awkward age, like that puberty age, it was just really awkward. It was just trying to find who I was and becoming a woman, and I was not like Brittany says, I'm not a girl, but not yet a woman, right? So, so it was kind of in that space and just trying to know my body as well and just understand my body. These things aren't talked about, and then your family's like, oh, shame, shame, and you're like, great, okay, well, no one's still
I hate
explaining
it.
to me.
I hate it.
Is that a trigger? Shame, shame.
Right.
So
Time to go on the retreat, you think.
yeah,
Yeah,
come to
it's
this
not only for
retreat.
girls as well, for small little boys as well. I don't have kids, but when it's said to my nephews and niece and like kids around me, I don't. Why are you instilling that into
Yeah, and
this
it's
young
not a
brain?
shame, right? Like
Yeah.
I got these deck of cards and they're like question cards. So it's like good. It's like Cards Against Humanity, but it's in a very like introspective way. So it'd be like, when's the last time you told a lie, or what would you, what's the last thing you've read, or whatever. And so with these cards, there's also these other cards that are in there. And a pink triangle means it's a sex related card. So if you're playing this with coworkers or whatever, like the rule is take out these pink triangles. So my cousin brought back these cards from the States, and then she's got like two daughters. I think they're like 6 and 8 or something like that. And they're like, I want to play. I was like, great. And then she's like, oh, this one's got SEX on it. Ew, right? And I was like, it's not ew. She's like, yes, it is. I said, no, you're just not ready for that yet, to have a conversation about that. But it's a beautiful thing. And it's just to allow people to actually enjoy it, right? That's why there's such a disconnect when people, when they get into it and they're like, I don't know, am I supposed to enjoy it? But then you feel shameful, right? Because of all these things that people have told you, because from young, shame, shame, right? So it's like everyone has like all this conditioning that I feel like needs to sort of dissipate so you actually find what you're comfortable with, right? I'm not saying you have to have sex with like 10 people and then now you're free. No, if you don't want to have sex with 10 people, don't have sex with 10 people.
Yeah.
No one's asking you, but be comfortable in your own body. And I think that was why that was so awkward for me. No one walked me through that. My sister was older, but I had no idea about anything. I just watched TV, but that's clearly not real.
Yes.
And of course, you were the drinking bird as well. So
Yeah, I was
so
like,
many things happening.
yeah.
So everything you do is really niche, right? Everything, because your businesses are very niche, or it's all about niche branding and so on. What advice do you give for entrepreneurs if they wish to, participate and start up their own niche businesses as well, like you've done?
I don't know. I guess it's the first time you said that I'm niche. I don't know if I
I
see
mean,
myself
yeah,
as niche.
I would say it's very. It's very. I guess it's niche, especially like wellness retreats in the way that you've branded it and so on. That is quite niche in itself.
I guess if you've always found your own niche in whatever you're doing, right? You found that own
maybe
space.
that's good. I think that's a good way to look at it. I just want to let whoever's listening know that my career was an evolution. It was an evolution of me. And your business is going to be the same. Whatever it is, I think you just have to be able to sleep at night worrying about this business or this entity or this endeavor and think about, could I actually care about this for like 5 years? If you don't have an exit plan, like could I actually do this for 5 years? And it's been 10 years. And when my talents think of an idea and they share it with me, I'm like so excited. I was like, oh my God, let's ideate this. Let's make this happen. Let's see who we can get involved. Like I get so excited. And I know that's why I still do what I do, right? And I think if you're doing it for, oh, I heard NFTs are really big or blockchain is this and that. Sure. If you can wake up and sleep and talk about blockchain all the time, all the power to you. Right? If you feel like NFTs are the next thing, if you feel like Web 3.0 or whatever it is, go for it. So I feel like that is the essence, right? Like I am true to who I am. I'm so proud of everything that I've built. I'm so proud of the relationships that I've created, the network that I've grown, because they're all extensions of who I am. I've never had to question that. I think my mom was very worried. She's like, oh no, if you're the entertainment business, you're most likely going to have to sleep with someone. And I was like,
oh
God,
my
that
God.
would suck, right? That would really suck, And I'm so glad that I haven't. Like, I'm just like, yes, I still won because I didn't have to do any of that.
So on that, it's funny you mentioned about NFTs and blockchains and so on, because I think no doubt this is going to be like a new territory for any business, whether it may be entertainment or well, entertainment included. So how do you see this impacting actually the future of the kind of industries that you are in, like these new technologies?
We've already seen it, right? So it's the acceleration of business. I think the people that understand how it works and have benefited from it. So this has already shifted things. We're seeing so many like young billionaires, people that have created businesses out of nowhere. And I'm not here to say that it's good or bad, but it's definitely changed a lot of stuff. And it's definitely something that we need to look at, right? And I think as an entrepreneur or someone that has built a business for the longest time, it would be a disservice if I didn't investigate a little bit more about what that was or see how that affected my company, you know?
So a super good NFT coming your way.
Yeah. I know. I don't know what that would look like, but yeah, perhaps. I'm in a point in my life where it's like a surrender, and surrender in the way that like anything could happen. I'm not here to dictate what I'm supposed to do. I just know that I have found a sense of purpose in allowing people to just giving them a space for them to really feel and to really be themselves and find the freedom within themselves. I love that about my job. I love like the clients that I work with. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to like uproot and move to a different country. I have no idea. But right now I'm just really enjoying where I'm at. I'm in such a great place in my life, and I've never been in any better place. And you know, if it's acting projects, if it's hosting jobs, whatever, let's do it. If I can make it work, I'm gonna make it work. And I think that's just my attitude with life right now.
So are you more of an actor, host, wellness coach? What exactly do you see yourself more of that?
I haven't acted in a little while. I had some producers come and talk to me about, you know, some films and stuff, but nothing has materialized. So yeah, I think I'm still everything. It's just when it comes out, right? Like when I choose to show that part of me, or when I choose to access that skill set. I think more recently it's been coaching. I think because that's just something that I'm trying to build and something that I'm trying to grow and, you know, just encourage the language around it. So it's great to have brands like sort of engage me and say, can you do sound healing for us? You know, just an activity, just sort of an experiential.
What is sound healing?
It's using my crystal bowls. You basically use instruments.
Oh, that one where you
yeah,
go.
to help channel a frequency that vibrates with your body and allows your body to heal, right? So through sound healing and the sound waves, it starts to entrain with your brain waves and get you into, you know, deep sleep.
On that note of sound, if you hear weird sounds, it's not coming from Sarah, it's coming from a dog who has just walked right into the frame. So now, yeah, Sarah did suddenly start making weird sounds. just for our audio listeners, you could log into YouTube and have a look. If you haven't checked out our YouTube, you can check it out. You can see that dog. Yeah, so if you're just on Spotify, no, Sarah didn't turn into a dog.
She just wants to be involved. I think, Sean, this is the direction that Uncool should be going into, having more dogs on our show.
If our listeners wanted to follow you and follow Suppagood, and where can they do that?
You can follow me on my Instagram. I'm Sarah Lian. I've got my website, sarahlian.com, and my website, supparetreat.com, SUPPA retreat.
And of course, I am Sarah Lian is one word, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, and of course, now that travel is back, league travel is back generally, and in Malaysia, the MCO is off as well. So how can our listeners join in a super retreat if they want to?
Yeah, just go on to the website and just see what offerings we have. If we've got a weekend retreat coming up, or if we have something online, feel free to join.
And if you want to hear from our other guests coming up in our new episodes or catch up on our old episodes, do remember to drop us a like and remember to click follow on our podcasts.
Of course, also drop us a 5-star rating. Absolutely no worries doing that because it's cool to be uncool.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Chong and co-hosted by Yenling Lo, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.
On the next episode of Uncool,
So wisely, very knowledgeably tell us, how haunted is Singapore?
I would say in the olden days, perhaps yes. But then again, where do you draw the line whether it's haunted or not? A clean place can be haunted.
next week on Uncool, it's our special Halloween edition coming on Saturday.